Let's go for it!
Hey everybody, welcome to the newest video in the dark stuff. I believe we're at number 113. And on this video, what I'm going to do for you today is I'm going to revisit an old series that I used to do called Hey VC, Want to See My 7 Inches? And I did 7 volumes of those. I used to do them a bit, and then I haven't done one in a year. I just looked. And part of that series is basically I just grab a couple of random 7 inches, 4 or 5 singles, do a little bit of needle drops and talk about them because I try to pick more obscure stuff in general. All of my selections on this edition are various artist ones, so it's not any single artist on one 7-inch. It's either a split between 2, or in some cases it's a compilation with as many as 4 bands on a single 7-inch. So the needle drops are going to be kind of short because I want to keep this rather concise. I'm going to start off first with a 1994 7-inch, part of a series called Teriyaki Asthma, and this is volume 7. Okay, limited edition to 2,500 copies. It's on CZ Records. The artists on this particular version are Hammerbox, Superchunk, Tsunami, and the Poster Children. All relatively good bands in their own right. Packaging offers nothing in the middle. It's black vinyl with a custom labels on either side. Now let's actually address the music, okay? These are all good bands. It's Teriyaki Asthma Volume 7. We'll start off with the Poster Children and their song, It's True. Poster Children are a great band from Illinois, from Champaign, Illinois. When I was going to college in Madison, Wisconsin in the early 90s, I thought they were a local band because they used to play there so much. I didn't realize they were, I mean, Illinois is not that far, but they were never actually a Madison band. This kind of stuff, by the time this came out, probably in 94, it was maybe recorded in 93. It kind of sounds like their album Daisy Chain Reaction, if you're familiar with their early 90s stuff. They started in 87, I think, but by the early 90s, they'd started defining their sound. I think they perfected it on the album Junior Citizen from like 1996 or 97, which is fantastic. It's totally out-of-print record. If you can find that, you should. Anyways, this particular song called It's True is reminiscent of that early 90s sound, maybe a little bit like Tool of the Man. Was a pretty decent record too. Just a good example of kind of a lo-fi indie stuff with guys who can actually play. They're not trying to be lo-fi. I think it's a budgetary reason for Poster Children. Next up on side A is Hammerbox, and with a track called Promise to Never. Okay, Hammerbox was a band from Seattle from the early 90s, and they were all in CZ Records proper, and then they ultimately signed to a major label, to I think it was A&M Records in probably 94, 95, or somewhere in that period. I never really liked Hammerbox. I know they were part of the Seattle indie scene, but I kind of thought they sounded like a major label, you know, quote-unquote alternative band that just was doing lo-fi music. They had this singer named Carrie Acre who had a great voice, probably still does. I say had like she is past tense, but she had a really great voice, but it's kind of one of these booming voices that I don't care for, you know. I just don't like it. This particular song is okay, but again, nothing special, which is kind of how I felt about Hammerbox in general. Like, okay, nothing special. Okay, the B-side of this record features Superchunk and Tsunami. So we'll start off the Superchunk track. They call it Sister on here. It's actually I'll Be Your Sister. It's a Motorhead cover that the band does. It's fucking awesome. Okay, that's a great version of that song. It just shows the depth of Superchunk's influences, that they can be this kind of punk band that sort of sounds like a little bit like the Buzzcocks and a little bit like the Replacements and a little bit like these other bands, but also is very influenced by Motorhead at the same time. I think that's a great cover. You're probably not going to be able to find this single or the CD where they compile all the tracks, but you can find that version on a collection that Superchunk put out on Merge Records called Incidental Music 1991 to 1995, and that is still available. It's great B-sides collection. In my view, Superchunk was the singles band of the 1990s. Without question, no band was a better singles band in the decade of the 90s than Superchunk, in my opinion. The next track is from Tsunami. That's a Virginia band featuring this woman, Jenny Toomey. Now, Jenny Toomey is a big deal in the indie world because she started this label, Simple Machines. I don't remember a lot of the Simple Machines artists anymore, but I remember her because she put out this guide in the early 90s, which was really essential before the internet, about if you want to run a label or if you want to be a band putting out your own records, how do you do it? Like, nobody knew. It was like shrouded in mystery. She put out a booklet that you could just ask for and they'd send it to you, and it explained the process. How you set up the printing, how you call it, you press the records here, and then you do this, and she gave you all the phone numbers and all the people you needed to speak with. And it was really, really great. It helped me when I started my label because I didn't know where to go either. I relied on that Simple Machines manual. Having said all that, this is not a particularly good Tsunami song. I do like some of their stuff. You know, again, it's that kind of cutesy stuff. Doesn't do much for me. I like Jenny Toomey and I like Tsunami in general. This song didn't really do it for me. But this is still a great collection. And if you ever find any in these series, they're all worth something because a lot of them have gems from groups like Nirvana and, you know, that with songs that had never come out anywhere else before. You eventually find them, especially in Nirvana's case, they've come out on other things. But this was a really good series, especially in the early 90s, a great 7-inch series. Next one up is a split 7-inch between two bands. It's between the Fiery Furnaces on one side, and it's Ted Leo on the other side. Now, this particular 7-inch was a promotional 7-inch, came out in 2005 on Razor and Tie Records, and it was done to promote this CD that they put out called This Bird Has Flown, a 40th anniversary tribute to Beatles' Rubber Soul. So clearly it features artists doing songs off Rubber Soul. Now, I would not necessarily recommend this collection. I got it for free as a promotional item. It does have some good artists. The Donnas are good. Low. I'm not a Sufjan Stevens fan, but maybe some of my viewers are. Rhett Miller from the old 97s is cool. Ted Leo, yeah. Ben Lee, he's okay. Ben Queller, he's okay. Cowboy Junkies, not bad. But the rest of them, I mean, there's some artists on here like Dar Williams, Yonder Mountain String Band, Ben Harper, people like that I just don't care for. So anyways, Beatles Die Hard, you know, it's you might want to look into it. As far as this particular 7-inch, again, it's just your standard there 45. We'll start off with side A, which is Ted Leo doing I'm Looking Through You.
I'm looking through you. Where did you go? I thought I knew you. What did I know? You don't look different, but you have changed. I'm looking through you.
Now, I like Ted Leo's music. I think he's good. I will say this. In his original music, I think he's too wordy. He's one of these guys that uses too many words to get your point across. It shows that he's very intelligent. He probably would be a good author, but for being a great songwriter, in my opinion, you have to be more concise. It's the difference between Elvis Costello in 1978 and Elvis Costello in, say, 1988. He really knew how to be concise in 78. By 88, he was dragging it on a little bit too long. Okay, but that's, you know, not really relevant. In this case, he's singing someone else's lyrics. It's lyrics from Paul McCartney or John Lennon, and I'm Looking Through You. I would say it has a weird introduction with some odd studio trickery and some kind of strange production, but once it gets into the gist of the song, very, very good. Thumbs up on Ted Leo's version of this. It's more straightforward. He doesn't mess with the song. You don't have to when it's the Beatles. You're free to do whatever you want to, but I like the fact that he basically stuck with the original. The same cannot be said for side 2, The Fiery Furnaces. Now, The Fiery Furnaces, I've never talked about on this show, except you might know them because it features Eleanor Friedberger, and Eleanor Friedberger I have mentioned on here because I do like her solo material. I showed some live footage in an earlier video of mine. This is her old band with her brother, I believe. And, it's definitely a more unique take on the song. I'll give them that.
I once had a girl, or should I say, she once had me. She showed me the room.
They are really trying to make it their own, but it kind of ruins it at the same time because it's just like it takes out the melody. I mean, the key function, the key aspect of the Beatles is the fact that their songs are so melodic and they're so fucking catchy. And if you just take out the melody completely and just put the words all in weird spots, I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. The production was bad. I don't like how they handled it. So thumbs down on the B side of this one, but the A side, quite good. And the next one up is another 4-band compilation. This is the volume 8 in the series from Amphetamine Reptile Records called Dope, Guns, and Fucking in the Streets. This came out in 1994. I'm just going to look real quick and see if there's anything in the middle. No, there is not. Okay. This one happens to be on purple vinyl. So there you go, purple vinyl. And volume 8 features Superchunk, again, Guzzard, Jawbox, and Godheadsilo. And, take out Superchunk for an example. I mean, they're great, but this is a pretty good example of the kind of noisier side of indie rock in about 1994, and that's really what AMREP did best. They were known for like really heavy, noisy bands, just pile driving you with their sound. A lot of great stuff. For me, I like the AMREP bands live. I really enjoyed seeing that stuff, or just pulverizing your brain with all that noise. On record, it was never quite as interesting to me. There are obvious exceptions, but for the most part, a lot of the AMREP bands didn't deliver as well on record. I mean, exceptions like The Cows and Helmet and stuff, but for the most part, I stand by that. Starts off with a song from Superchunk again, so I'll give you a little sample. This is a song called Basement Life. The origins of that song, when it was originally recorded, if it was done for something else and then they just used it for this, but I will say that it's a very good example of the early lo-fi Superchunk sound. Their vocals were buried a little bit lower in the mix than they were later on in their albums. It could have been produced by Steve Albini for all I know, because he did do the album that they had done just before that. It has that kind of a feel. But, it's good dynamics, the loud, quiet, loud thing, which they don't always do, but they're very good at it when they do. I would say solid example from Superchunk. It's really hard for them to make a bad song, especially at this point. They were just kicking out the jams left and right. Also on that side is the band Guzzard and a song called Bite. Guzzard was an AMREP band, and they really fit the mold of that AMREP sound. Now that song, Bite, is pretty cool. It doesn't stand out really. It's just, if I had to sell someone, if somebody was like, well, what does like something on AMREP sound like? I would say like that. That's the sound. Guzzard, right there. You just heard it. Trio from Minneapolis, lasted a couple years. Decent stuff. That song is okay. Again, nothing special. Moving on to the B side. Now we're on the B side, and this is a song from Jawbox. It's called Low Strung. You might know Jawbox. They're from Washington, D.C. They were on Discord Records, later on Atlantic Records. And Low Strung is a really, really great tune from them. It's got that super abrasive kind of aggro thing that those guys did back in the day. A really good example of DC punk rock, in my view, on that Jawbox track. They really did make great records. In retrospect, if you go back and listen to that for your own special sweetheart and think they sold out, you're just stupid. Anyways, moving on. The last band on the compilation is Godheadsilo with a song called Lotion Pocket. Godheadsilo is a band from Fargo, North Dakota that recorded for the Sub Pop label in the 90s. This is a song, what is it called again? Oh yeah, it's called Lotion Pocket. That's again, a lot of bands that were coming out like that, where it's a two-piece with a heavy distorted bass and drums, and that's the only instrumentation. That's a pretty good example of what those guys did. If that was appealing to you, I would say check out their records, but you might want to, anyways, check out their album Share the Fantasy, or just look for the track on YouTube. They do a great version of In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. Stellar cover. Okay? Stellar cover. From Godheadsilo, from Fargo, North Dakota. That's the end of this particular record. All right, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this edition of Hey VC. Want to see my 7 inches? I'll be back with you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.